Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Moving on in the subclass series onto the next subclass, which is the College of Creation Bard in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So, if you're new to the channel or to the subclass series, what we are going to do is we're going to go through all of the abilities gained in this subclass, and then we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class abilities. Without any further ado, jump straight into it.
Alright, so you get Moat of Potential starting out at level 3. Whenever you give a creature a bardic inspiration die, you can utter a note of a song of creation. Create a tiny moat, a little bitty object, orbits within 5 feet of the creature. So a little bitty, little something floating around. The moat is intangible and invulnerable and lasts until the bardic inspiration die is lost. The moat looks like a musical note, star, flower, something artsy. Because you're a bard after all. When the creature uses the bardic inspiration die, the moat provides an additional effect based on whether the die is used for an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw as detailed following. For an ability check, the creature gets to roll the bardic inspiration die again and choose which roll to use. So it's advantage on the bardic inspiration die for an ability check. For an attack roll, immediately after the creature rolls a bardic inspiration die and add it to an attack roll against the target, the moat thunderously shatters. Targeting each creature of your choice within 5 feet of it must see the Constitution saving throw against it or take thunder damage equal to the number rolled on the bardic inspiration die. And then for the saving throw, immediately after the creature rolls the bardic inspiration die and adds it to the saving throw, the moat vanishes and a soft sound of music, causing the creature to gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled on the bardic inspiration die plus your charisma modifier.
There you go. So a little bit of extra bonuses to all of the possible uses.
Well, I bet that comes into play on the synergy later. What do you all think?
Possible, probably.
Also, level 3, you have Performance of Creation. As an action, channel the magic of the Song of Creation to create one non-magical item of your choice in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you. The item must appear on a surface or any liquid that can support it. The gold value can't be more than 20 times your bard level, and the item must be medium or smaller. The item glimmers softly, and a creature can faintly hear music when touching it. The creative item disappears after a number of hours equal to your proficiency bonus, and it lists where you can find some good examples of what you can create. Once you use this feature, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend a spell slot of level 2 or higher, and you can have only one item created by this feature at a time. If you use this action again, the original one, older one, vanishes. The size of this item grows as you level. You can create a large item at level 6 and a huge item at level 14. Let the shenanigans commence at level 14.
Yes. Alright, at level 6, we get Animating Performance. As an action, you target a large or smaller non-magical item that you can see within 30 feet and animate it. The animated item uses a dancing item stat block, which I will put on screen, using your proficiency bonus. The item is friendly to you and obeys your commands. It lives for 1 hour until reduced to 0 hit points or until you die. Not incapacitated, you die.
Right.
So even if you're incapacitated, it will still be on the battlefield. In combat, the item shares your initiative count but takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but only takes dodge unless you take a bonus action to command it to do something else. That action can be one in its stat block or some other action. That'd be like help or other ways to interact. If you are incapacitated, the item can take any action of its choice, not just dodge, which is nice because then it can kind of try to protect you if you do get incapacitated. When you use Bardic Inspiration feature, you can command the item as part of the same bonus action you use for Bardic Inspiration. So it lets you do both in the same turn without having to worry so much about it.
Indeed.
Can't do this again after you do it once until you finish a long rest, unless you spend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to use the feature again. You can only have one animated item at a time. If you use this action and already have an dancing item, the first one immediately becomes inanimate. So just a quick look at the stat block. We should have it on screen here. 16 armor class, 10 HP plus 5 times your bard level, 30 feet movement, 30 feet of hovering flying, and then immune to poison psychic. Some pretty decent things on here. Immutable form can't be altered by things that would change its form. And of course, it has a little bit of irrepressible dance. So you can give a little speed boost to some allies that are near it, and it of course has an attack which is 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus and force damage for a reach of 5 feet. So just a little bit of stuff on here, but nothing too crazy. And then lastly, at level 14, we have Creative Crescendo. When you use Performance of Creation feature, you can create more than one item at once. Number of items equals your Charisma modifier. If you create an item that would exceed that number, you can choose which previously created items disappear. Only one of these can be of the maximum size you can create. The rest must be small or tiny. So you can't make a bunch of huge stuff.
Yeah.
You can just make one huge thing and then some smaller, tiny things to go along with
Yep.
it. You're no longer limited by gold value when creating items with Performance of Creation. So you can swindle some people really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Although they might get a little curious when they touch it and they hear music. So
It just depends on how good of a liar you are. Well, you're a bard.
I put a musical enchantment on it.
Yeah.
So you can come up with some stuff. You got that charisma to see you anyway. So
Yep.
That being said, those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. So now we move on to the rating portion of the video. And first up is the roleplay value. First of all, asterisk as always. When we talk about roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, avoiding combat, non-combat scenarios, basically things outside of the initiative order.
Right.
We are not talking about not talking about your character background, class, fantasy, history, lore. All of that is on you as a player. Can't rate you as a player. We can only rate the abilities gained in the book. It's up to you to do what you can with those abilities. So, based on the abilities, there are some interesting things on here. All of these abilities are going to give you essentially some kind of RP potential.
Yeah.
I would say. Now, some might be a little bit more niche, like creating an animated object. Might be a little bit more on the niche side. But if you look, the Irrepressible Dance gives your allies a speed boost when they end their turn near it. Yeah. So there's a way that you could maybe use that if you're in a hurry or something. You create this, you summon a chair, you animate a chair, and then the chair runs along with you and speeds up all your allies. So there's some niche use.
What's funny is the first thing I thought about is, give him the chair!
There you go. So there's basically endless possibilities.
Yep.
And all of these abilities are going to be giving you some form of RP bonus. Plus, the abilities can be reused. They do take spell slots to do so. But you are a bard, so you're a full caster, so it's not as big a deal to be able to have to use your spell slots. So you have the option to use them should you so choose.
Yep.
So we went with a 4.5 out of 5 flumps for this one. Very solid. If you're a very creative player, this is very interesting. The kind of stuff you could do. But we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, I think.
On the combat side of things, you don't have to get far to see some benefit, obviously, with buffing the 3 different choices for Bardic Inspiration, either doing some extra damage or giving some temporary hit points on a saving throw. Always helpful.
Yes.
Nothing too. And again, things that don't cost you anything extra. It happens as part of your Bardic Inspiration anyways. No worries there. For Hordes of Creation, you can actually use to create weapons. You can create shields with it. You can create, things like that. And, I'm immediately imagining like your party gets kidnapped, gets all your equipment taken. Somebody can get out of there with a weapon or something, at least, or something like that. So that's always helpful. You can create all kinds of fun things with it. And then with the Animating Performance, you can animate an object that can fight for you, deal damage. Of course, the Impressive Dance can either increase movement speed for allies or reduce movement speed for enemies. So there's some fun little terrain shenanigans you can do with the animate object that can help in combat. And then again, just being able to make more and more items with your Crescendo. Eventually be able to make huge items. And again, I'm not a super abstract thinker when it comes, not super creative. But I know people that would be able to absolutely be able to make all this crazy stuff. So combat side, we went over 3 out of a possible 5. And again, this becomes either limited or limitless based on your own ability to think outside the box.
Right.
And what all you can think of to make and how to really exploit that open area. But I think maybe James is going to go to is this also creates issue with how much your DM's willing to let you do.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what I was going to say. How much your DM lets you get away with, 1.
Yeah.
2, how creative you are as a player. And I think the best comparison to something like this would be the Illusion Wizard.
Yeah.
But the Illusion Wizard can make any illusion real. This is you're making items, so it's a little bit, I think, different. You're making more tangible things. It's a little bit harder to try to gauge what you could do. Now, you definitely have some MacGyver potential, where especially when you can start creating multiple items at a time, because then you can create like pieces and then put the pieces together to make stuff. So you have a little bit of creativeness in there. So I mean, if you're a very creative player and your DM lets you get away with a lot, the combat could be higher.
Yes.
But that's a big if
Right.
And there's 2 big factors in there as well.
You and your DM
yes,
being able to
exactly.
work around that stuff.
So don't take the 3 with a little bit of grain of salt, but it's definitely interesting.
Sure.
If anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Then lastly, we have the synergy side of things. And with bards, the main things you're synergizing with is like your spell slots, you're a full caster, and I mean you also have your bardic inspiration can be a big part of the subclass or the class as well. So that being said, bardic inspiration does get a flat out buff through the subclass.
No matter how it gets used.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that can incentivize your players or other party members to hold that bardic inspiration for the right circumstance, which can be a good thing depending if they're like, I need this for a certain thing, then you kind of hold it a little bit longer. Or, you know, something specific is coming up and you need that extra bonus to the bardic inspiration, then you just use it right before that and give it the inspiration. And of course, spells get extra RP uses because they can be used for your abilities in the subclass. So there's some solid uses here as well, being able to make items, animate things to fight alongside you, or give movement speed bonuses to your allies and stuff like that.
I mean, being able to make things even in an RP setting just makes you be so much more of a bard. Because, like, I mean, we talked about you can be able to you could swindle somebody. And then, and there's like, well, you got to be able to convince them. Well, you're a bard,
right.
So you know, expertise on deception and and persuasion. You can talk your way out of World War III just by being a bard. I mean, yeah.
So pretty solid. We went with a 4 out of 5 on the synergy side. I think the only thing is, while it is interesting and there are a lot of potential uses for the creating items, there is, again, a little bit of limitation on DM discretion of ability to use that, and also your creativity as a player.
Yep.
And also, it does use your spell slots, which means they're not going to be used for other things.
Right.
So while it is a good thing to have the ability to reuse those abilities over and over again,
there is a cost to it.
There is definitely a cost to it. So you might not be able to hold someone.
You won't be able to
later
abuse these abilities maybe as much as you'd like to.
Yeah, you wanted to be RP fancy and you made a fancy fork for dinner, and you're like, well, now I can't cast hold person because I used my spell slot for that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So it's solid, definitely for very creative players. So creative bard for really creative players. Who would have thought?
Imagine that.
Who would have thought?
No.
So definitely very interesting, fun subclass, I think. But with that, I believe, as we've been doing for all the other videos, there is a quote from Tasha that gives a quick description, abbreviation of her thoughts.
Yeah, it's a great little extra thing they've added to all these subclasses. I think it does a good job of being succinct and giving you kind of what to expect as you read ahead into the subclass. And Tasha calls the College of Creation, one bard's song of creation is the score to another person's nightmares. Again, I think that ties into... Yeah, that bard is a creative nutcase and can do all kinds of shenanigans. That means problems for other people.
Right.
Both in a fun way and an absolutely dangerous way.
I just think, my cabbages!
My cabbages! Yes.
But
absolutely.
That being said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. So if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications to know if our new videos are coming out, and be prepared for our next giveaway that should be coming sooner rather than later.
Boy, howdy.
So keep an eye out for that. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.